Gilgamesh was a semi-mythical king of Uruk. By semi-mythical, what I mean is that there is solid historical evidence that points towards the existence of a real ancient Sumerian king named Gilgamesh. We have an inscription on the ancient walls of Uruk that name the king Gilgamesh, and he's also referenced in a list of Sumerian kings. But the mythology around his life and rule is, well, a bit exaggerated. Gilgamesh is best known from the ancient Babylonian poem, the Epic of Gilgamesh. The epic is the oldest known piece of epic world literature, predating even Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey by over 1,000 years. According to these traditions, Gilgamesh's father is said to have been the priest king Lugalbanda, and his mother to have been the goddess Ninsun. This would have made Gilgamesh a demigod, and he is said to have been blessed with exceptionally long life and superhuman strength. Obviously, the stories about Gilgamesh are not 100% historically accurate, but that isn't really the point of a myth or a legend, even in the time that it's written. The point of it is to use a fantastical story that portrays moral or cultural truths. And the fact that so many stories arose around Gilgamesh suggests that he was, in all reality, a great Sumerian king, because a bad, ineffective, or weak king wouldn't have inspired such stories as the ones that are compiled in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is not actually a single poem or story, but rather a collection of 5 older poems that were woven together into one story of Gilgamesh. These 5 tales are Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and the Underworld, Gilgamesh and Huwawa, Gilgamesh and the Bowl of Heaven, the Death of Gilgamesh, and the Flood Story. The epic begins with a prologue in which the narrator invites the reader into Gilgamesh's story. The story begins with Gilgamesh as an arrogant tyrant, portrayed as a violent king who uses force to get anything he wants, including the chance to sleep with the brides of his subjects on their wedding nights. Tired of Gilgamesh's abhorrent behavior, the gods create Enkidu to humble him. Enkidu travels to Uruk to challenge Gilgamesh, and an epic battle ensues. Gilgamesh defeats Enkidu, but the battle is hard fought, and the two develop mutual respect. Following the battle, the two become best friends, or potentially more than friends, depending on who you ask. But what is clear is that they grow great respect and love for one another, and they go out on adventures together. Gilgamesh desired to immortalize his own name in history, so he suggested to Enkidu that they travel to the cedar forest and slay the monster Humbaba. Humbaba is not an evil creature, but rather the protector of the forest and is favored by the gods. After the pair defeat Humbaba, he pleads for mercy, but Enkidu encourages Gilgamesh to ignore his pleas and finish him off, which he does. The pair return to Uruk, where Gilgamesh dresses in his finest clothes to celebrate, and he ends up attracting the attention of the goddess Ishtar, who tries to seduce Gilgamesh, but he refuses. Enraged by this, Ishtar sends her brother-in-law, the Bull of Heaven, to destroy Gilgamesh and the city of Uruk. Gilgamesh and Enkidu defeat the bull, and Enkidu throws one of the bull's legs back at Ishtar in contempt. For Enkidu's role in killing Humbaba, and for the disrespect that he showed to Ishtar, the gods condemn Enkidu to death. Rather than a quick smiting from the gods, Enkidu endures a slow and painful death, and when he finally does die, Gilgamesh falls into deep despair. In the wake of losing Enkidu, Gilgamesh is finally humbled. Setting aside his pride and vanity, Gilgamesh forges a new path and sets out to find the meaning of life. He seeks immortality as a means to avoid the pain of losing everything in his life again, just as he did with Enkidu. Gilgamesh travels far in search of Utnapishtim, a man who survived the Great Flood and was rewarded with immortality by the gods. On his journey, Gilgamesh meets Siduri, who tries to dissuade him of his quest, but he refuses. Unable to convince Gilgamesh, Siduri directs him to the ferryman, or Shinabi, who takes Gilgamesh across the waters of death to the home of Utnapishtim, the man Gilgamesh has been searching for. Utnapishtim tells Gilgamesh that he cannot grant him immortality, as his was a gift from the gods and he does not have the power to give it to others. But nevertheless, he gives Gilgamesh 2 tasks to determine if he is worthy of immortality. The first task was to stay awake for 6 days and nights, which Gilgamesh fails to do. The second task was to protect a magical plant, which Gilgamesh also fails to do, as it is eaten by a snake while he is careless and leaves the plant alone while he goes to bathe. Having failed to attain immortality, Gilgamesh returns to Uruk and writes down his story on its walls. Although Gilgamesh failed to achieve immortality in the physical sense, he did succeed in immortalizing his name in history through his quote-unquote failed quest. Gilgamesh is still a known figure today, some 4,600 years from when the historical king Gilgamesh would have likely reigned in Uruk, a city from a civilization that has long since been gone for several millennia. In that way, Gilgamesh did succeed in becoming immortal, after all. But what do you think? Do you find the story of Gilgamesh compelling? Or is it just another old story? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more content like it, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.